So I'm going to share this poem that I wrote almost 5 years ago, dedicated to Tamir Reece. So if you don't know the story of Tamir Reece, I'd recommend that you please look into it. The situation in America and I think across the world is absolutely crazy if we're thinking about systematic abuse, if we're thinking about violence against the black body. And this week I've lost a lot of sleep in regards to what's happening. I'm sending love to the family of George Floyd, and I'm standing in solidarity with everyone who stands against all forms of racism and all forms of oppression. This is a letter for Tamir Reece. Dear Tamir, when I first heard of your assassination, I was already spent on grief. For Emmett, for Amadou, for Oscar, for Trayvon, Renisha, and Mike, my well of mourning is running dry. I'm drawing on coppers at the bottom of the wishing well. It's hard but necessary to be reminded so frequently of how expendable we, this strange fruit, truly are. And Tamir, you left your house that day armed with an arsenal of ambition, loaded with hope and ready to explode with potential like fireworks across that Cleveland skyline commemorating the new year that you weren't allowed to enter. And yes, I remember what it was like to be a 12-year-old black boy. It was hard enough to keep the mind clear, without being burdened with the knowledge that from birth until death, you will live your life inside the eye of a crosshair, potentially just 28 minutes from death by police or death by racially motivated murder, constantly shrinking yourself to fit into inhospitable places, governed by people who think they're doing you a favor by letting you breathe. And it's unfair that you had to adjust to life in a world where the humanity of blacks must be asserted daily. This is not the peace or justice Dr. King and his generation marched in solidarity for, and it's unfair that the media will question your skill at living cautiously, rather than your right to live happily, but will not probe why one of your murderers was a frontline police officer despite being deemed unfit for policing. This same media will partake in the demonization of your character. You will be presented as the villain rather than the victim of this modern day lynching. Dear Tamir, I'm sorry that you never got that justice you deserved. That inquiry into your death was nothing more than perfunctory. It was nothing more than perfunctory, as the grand jury decided that your death certificate was not signed when the dispatcher asked the caller whether you were black or white, not once but twice, but did not apportion accountability for your killers, giving you just 2 seconds to react to their calls of "put your hands up" before shooting you twice in the gut and forcing you to spend 4 of your final conscious minutes in the presence of your killers, deprived of your right to first aid, deprived of the dignity of having your sister by your side as you bled into the afterlife. Dear Tamir, I'm sorry that you never lived long enough to learn that the difference between assumed juvenile criminality and just childhood mischief is not the difference between your toy pistol and an authentic firearm, but the difference between black skin and white skin. Dear Tamir, I promise to write down and speak up until the world and in years to come, the history books speak your name and those countless others and those that are still being added in the same breath as genocide. Dear Tamir, sleep well.